breakfast.
People in Kerala say Namaskaram for greeting. It means, I don't want anything. Namaskaram, explains the master to his students, is to put down all your will and open yourself. Before a student takes his first step of dancing, he has to learn the Namaskaram, the I don't want anything. With this short greeting dance, the class always begins and ends. It is the ritual that surrounds an Indian dancer's dance like a holy circle, even when he is only training. Outside of this circle, he is a human as anyone else. Inside, he offers his body as a receptacle for the gods. These people communicate thus with the upper world to experience divine dimensions in a sensual way. The master points to the top of the head and describes with both hands something like a channel up to the sky. And let God enter you, that he can dance with your body. To include and translate Namaskaram in thinking, feeling and acting mean a nearly impossible effort and challenge for a Westerner. To exercise humility before one dances, to exercise humility before one does something.
Humility. When I reached India the first time, this word was only known to me as a scorn characteristic. In my culture, one is very proud of one's own will.
In India, many things are different, more than just landscapes, menus, appearances, languages, dances and religions. Not only dancers start the day with the Namaskaram, even craftsmen, doctors, stone beaters, bank officers, stamp vendors, owners of tea stalls and restaurants, taxi drivers and, not to forget, the mad bus drivers. Everybody performs the Namaskaram before the very first act. Every single act looks a bit different. The stone loaders touch the stone with both hands for a contemplative moment, then their forehead, before they lift the first rock on their shoulders and heads. Taxi and bus drivers hang a fresh garland of jasmines around the mirror and place fragrant joss sticks in the cap of the dashboard and the steering wheel. Orientation of a short meditation will be provided with some spots of color paste. In hotels, restaurants, post offices and banks, corners and niches are everywhere on a wall, where smoking sticks, flower garlands and pictures of a particular deity mark the holy spot, which will be decorated and honored every morning. Once a year, hundreds of thousands of pilgrims gather at the seashore to bow their dead ones. The Namaskaram is absorbed by the Indian mind as eating, drinking and sleeping.
वेदीप्रदानं च अग्निजनिषि ॐ कुशोऽसि मुसवस्तोऽसि ब्रह्मणा गर्मिदं विदा पिण्डस्वामी गर्भासनन्दनः निर्ब्रह्मणाय मधुरिमा ट्रावल रेलवे स्टेशन तदेव पार्थिरीत्या शिवरात्रिमना मधुरिमा ट्रावल से रेलवे स्टेशन तदेव पार्थिरीत्या पूयपल्ली तारे वयस्सुमना कविता ट्रैक्स वना प्रचलन तिरकी पूडवला वाटे दस्तीय से दातिदस्तीया पूयपल्ली
I travelled to India the first time by land in 1977. The yellow sari and the naked belly of a fat Indian woman on a bicycle composed the very first visual image welcoming me to this magic country. Yellow sari and naked belly. What refreshing impressions after travelling across Islamic nations. An exhausting and exciting journey of several weeks lay behind me. Each kilometer demanded all my efforts to approach this long-sought aim, which I had traced only with my index finger so far. I would never have returned. The growing distance of my home country seduced me with an irresistible lure. I was in an ecstasy. Just 22. That's a long time ago. Meanwhile, I have stopped to count my journeys to India. The number doesn't count anymore. The exotic dissolved. The Indian soil is familiar now to my souls. Became my home, my second one, how we used to say. Today, I have a fatherland and a motherland. Germany is male, India is female. My feet stepped on many other countries and continents too, yet motherland India remains unattainable in her power. How many hours I have spent to think about her mighty attraction. At first chaos, and then, inspired by a pulsating diversity, I could look straight up to infinity, discovered being secure in this expanse. Then later, a miraculous magic of an old world. It is not possible to explain by reason, impossible to think what is really going on there. Divine majesties seem to be closer to this part of the earth, much closer than to us who know just one God alone. A strict old man with grey hair.
ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഫോട്ടോ കൂടെ എടുക്കണം. ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഫോട്ടോ കൂടെ എടുക്കാൻ സമ്മതിച്ചില്ല.
God's own country. That's how Kerala is recommended by the catalogues. This narrow state along the west coast of South India. Certainly, long time ago, it could have been true. God's own country. Land of the gods. Of the goddesses too. How is it possible? In spite of the crowded population, the space seems to be much bigger, wider, as even the sky is a part of the earth. The remote fisherman's beach, with the well-sounding name Samudra, close to Trivandrum, was my Indian domicile for some years. Sitting on the flat roof of a little guest house, I was writing without any disturbance, from sunrise to sunset, always watching the breaking waves. Actually, the story begins here, at this spot of Kerala, in January 1995. At the beach, big ocean. There I had a significant experience. I became the witness of a dancing god. At that very moment, not yet recognized by me, the search for the dancing god began to form a rough shape. At the neighboring site, the first village fair took place, a staged village festival of the olden times. 2 weeks play and fun with dancing gods and raging demons, folk art of all kinds, rituals for fertility, archaic fire and war dances. I've never seen many of them before. Suddenly, a female dancer fell out of the row. It looked clumsy to me. I had to laugh. While the other dancers continued to follow the choreography, this dancer was acting the clown, who had forgotten the steps and nevertheless went on dancing. Then, at once, her behavior became wilder, and my laughter froze. Uncontrolled energies chased her across the stage. Once she passed by in front of me. Her wide open eyes had no iris. I was frightened. I don't know why. At this moment, my thoughts switched off. eyes have never seen before those things that were going on there. Time has stopped. Only vague images and emotions are conserved in my memory. When finally the performance was about to end, singing and music ceased, the trance dancer fell down like a stick, at first lying motionless on the ground, then kicking and waving her arms and legs about. Singers and musicians hurried to her, and they had to hold her tightly to pour water into her mouth. Suddenly, there was this announcement breaking off this evening performance, and whispering passed from ear to ear. Shiva, Shiva. I couldn't grasp anything at all. Shiva, Shiva, the fisherman murmured and went on quietly on the way home. Pushed out to the beach by this mumbling crowd, I woke up slowly from that silent trance, and with the dramaturgy of an approaching thunderstorm, I became aware of what had happened. Shiva has been here. A god had danced for us humans. I was enchanted. Never before had I experienced something comparable. No photographs exist, just remembrance in my heart. I stayed awake long time that night, too excited to be able to fall asleep. That it hasn't been Shiva, but another dancing god, I couldn't know yet. I would hear about him only many years later. The second village fair took place the following year at this crowded tourist beach of Kovalam. Flashlight, coke and bustling activity now marked this staged festival of olden times. Skimpily dressed tourists from all over the world strolled beside Indian middle-class families from the nearby capital, all together in holiday mood across the ground. It was a hectic atmosphere. A constant coming and going swirled up the tender tissue of contemplation. The international audience were tired of shooting pictures of the colorful exotic and had already seen enough. Soon they were allured by the next attraction, somewhere else. The applause took me by surprise. Until then, I've never seen clapping hands during such performances. Now I saw the first time how this happened, and much more. To think of this second village fair is causing a sad feeling in me. Every evening I went to the Kovalam beach by auto rickshaw, wishing in vain the repetition of my experience the year before. Nothing of that was going to happen. Also, that energetic dancer and her group had come again. Their guru, a wiry tiny man, stood at the edge of the stage, blessing his dancers. But their appearance couldn't entice the dancing god to visit this busy location. He stayed away, just as the fisherman. As if dazed, I watched this conversion. A premonition crept shuddering over me. Creating, conserving, destroying. Now I am witnessing another mystery, the collapse of an ancient culture. Neither fisherman nor a dancing god will come to that spot. The end of the old, the beginning of the new. The seam laid bare in front of our eyes, separating the old and the new world, sharply cutting them apart. An inexorable process, cruel and fascinating at the same time. I watched fully aware, writing against the growing discomfort, that indescribable something which forced me half of my life, like many other travelers, to move from my developed western homeland, seeking for a sniff of this old world in India. That something was silently being carried away, to be buried right now. The funeral took place in front of everybody's eyes, but nevertheless went unnoticed. I abandoned the hope to ever see the dancing god anymore. The time passed. That woman's dance in trance didn't go off my mind. 6.5 years after her unforgettable performance at the Fisherman's Beach named Samudra in 1995, I decided to search for her. Neither did I know her name nor her address. I only knew that she used to live in the Pandalam district and that she had broken her toe during the days she danced in trance. With these 2 bits of information, I set off on a morning in the summer of 2001 to find her in the jungle of the Keralite cultural landscape, the nameless one who left behind such deep traces in my memory. The search goes on quite smoothly, as if an invisible thread would lead me straight to her place. Evidently, this dancing god has no objections to my visit. In a remote village, I face her for the first time, hearing her deep voice. Now she has got a name. Subrada, morning light. That wiry tiny man is Guru Kutyasha, her father and master. His name suits him. Teacher, little master. I'm excited. Today I will learn the first steps. Her sister Sushila will sing. The class starts with the ritual which initiates the student into the art of dance by the master, the blessing. Subrata stands in front of me, facing east. I turn to face her, like I had seen her and the dancers once. Only after that do I become her authorized student and she, my master. The steps are very easy. The dance consists of just 3 combinations of steps. At the beginning, the rhythm is slow, then increases in ferocity towards the end. I do not know as yet what I am dancing. Later, in the short intervals, name and meaning are explained to me piece by piece. Pakkanar-tullal. What a surprise! It was not Shiva who was dancing at the fisherman's beach in 1995, but another dancing god. His name is Pakkanar. This idea confuses me totally. My first impulse is disappointment. Induced to think that would put an end to the story at this point. I need a good while for new orientation. For many years I carried this dancing god in my memory, being convinced that he is Shiva. When I was searching for him, he led me into this remote village where he reveals his real identity. And now he has become a completely different one. Pakkanar. I am hearing his name for the first time. For more than 2 decades I have been visiting and traveling in Kerala. How could this Pakkanar have escaped my notice? I'm irritated, only slowly coming off the rigidity of my disappointment. My feet have been faster than my mind, because a short time ago they were training Pakkanar's movements already. Pakkanar-tullal. Tullal means to move. Pakkanar doesn't dance. Pakkanar moves.
Pakkanar belongs to the culture of the Paraya, once outcast basket makers. Their songs and stories tell about his birth, his arts, and his power, about his father, the scholar Vararuchi, and about his mother, Ati, about his 11 brothers, and even about the connection to the highest god Vishnu.
കുടിവാഴ കുടിത്തല മേലെ
Do you want to know the story of Pakkanar? Long live my Ganapatya. Shall we live long through Ganesha? Long live my Sarasvatya. Dear people, do you want to listen to the story of Pakkanar? Vararuchi was the most important among the 9 scholars of King Vikramati. Long live my Ganapatya. Without knowing that the slogan Mamitya is the answer, days long Vararuchi rambles around searching for that answer. Long live my Ganapatya. After 41 days he found the answer and went home. Long live my Ganapatya. Pakkanar's birthplace is in the mountains of Palutati. Long live my Ganapatya. It is possible to meditate on one foot, even on one toe, even on a needle. Pakkanar is able to do. Long live my Ganapatya. Pakkanar and Vishnu grew up together. Long live my Ganapatya. One day Pakkanar went to see Vishnu. Vishnu didn't know Pakkanar's name. Long live my Ganapatya. When Pakkanar heard this, he got angry and cursed him.
Pakkanar's song can be extended and complemented as needed for any occasion. One who doesn't know anything about the stories can hardly find a meaning. Each line of the song could be the title of another story, which again is knitted into all others of the Indian universe of stories all the way up to the great Hinduism.
One should know that the Paraya, as a casteless people, once were expelled from the Hindu community. It was forbidden to them even to enter a Hindu temple, and many more other things. They have created a divine world of their own, which was cherished by ancient sources, and also connected with the highest of the Hinduism. Look at Vishnu, who rised up to the top position over all Hindu gods, and who, on the other hand, had spent his childhood with Pakkanar.
Names like Ganesha and Saraswati appear too in these songs. The elephant-headed god Ganesha is the son of Shiva. Goddess Saraswati is the wife of Brahma, who represents, together with Shiva and Vishnu, the Holy Trinity. The culture of the Paraya is never to find in books. Their knowledge traveled from mouth to mouth through the generations. So I am depending on what the Paraya will tell us. They are the only ones able to speak about it. Guru Kutiashan and his family are the descendants of these basket makers. The Paraya's old tradition as basket makers seems to explain why the kolam, the painted triangle carried on the dancer's head during the Pakkanar-tullal, is woven by rattan. The costume is made by kurutola, tender coconut leaves. Due to their bright and pale yellow color, the tender palm leaves were considered as something pure, precious. Pakkanar-tullal is a divine dance, explains Kutiashan, and kurutola a divine symbol. This was the gold of the casteless people, to whom in the past real gold and shining metals were forbidden. Instead of that, they possessed something else, which the rich caste members didn't have. Shaman power, like once with Pakkanar and Vishnu, who had forgotten his childhood friend's name. The song tells about it. I will put together the detailed story only later, Just step by step I am groping forward. Who is this Pakkanar? Only he had the power to curse the highest god and to take it back afterwards. The Paraya had declared him to be their mighty protecting spirit. Their dancers once knew to use his energy, so they were sought after shamans in olden times. Guru Koti Ashan is one of the last. Probably he is the only Paraya who still knows to quote each line of every story completely. He is quite talkative and tireless in answering my questions. None of our conversations becomes a strain on him or bores him. He is happy when he can recount. For me, all these things are new and strange. Shamans in India? I thought they lived only in Africa and among the Indians of America. How does this shamanism work, and thereby the trance? How do the dancers reach this change of consciousness, and what do they feel in this condition? This experience is difficult to describe, they answer, but try it nevertheless. It is something appealing, tremendously impressive, a pleasant event to be touched by the spirit of the God who knows the cosmic. The song is very powerful, the singing and the drumming, but when the music stops, the trance also will end. We are in another world. How is it possible to express in words? Nobody is able to do it. Dancing with Pakkanar is a mystery, and simultaneously it is a part of the practical life of the Paraya. Not easy to understand. What kind of authorities are these? Gods? Spirits? Demons? Sushila calls them ancestral spirits. Their portraits are painted on the kolam.
There's the kolam of Pakkanar and his wife Pakatiya, of two goddesses. One of them is Vanadevada, the forest goddess. Then of Vishnu and the piniotical kolam. Only the master decides who should dance with which spirit.
I cannot describe this ecstasy and this happiness, says Subhadra. This condition I am experiencing is something special, exceptional. After that, everything becomes normal again, but I am very energetic. It is a magnificent feeling to receive this energy, because the Spirit has accepted what I have done for it. Pray and believe. That's why I get into this trance. Somebody who just dances will never be given this spirit. Before starting the Pakkanar-tullal, my father prays and blesses the dancers. Each one is a different spirit. Kaladi Paradevada has been the goddess of his guru. Now she is the main goddess of our Kaladi. By asking her for her blessings to each of his dancers, he blesses the dancers. Like that, I too get Pakkanar spirit. Before starting to dance the Parishamutukali, the sword dance, I also pray to Kaladi Paradevada. Then I can realize a certain feeling too, but it is not the same like I do with Pakkanar-tullal. Experience is important. And to get into this war scene, this battlefield, I have to stretch the legs and to play with this violent force. Then the steps happen automatically, even if we haven't rehearsed much. I get to know the meaning of Kaladi, the classroom. Often it is just a roof of palm leaves over a compressed mud floor. Performances can take place there too, but the Kaladi is more than only a classroom in a Western sense. Never should you enter this room with shoes. It is a own world, similar to the holy place. Kaladi Paradivada lives there. Subrata calls her goddess. Already as a 4-year-old, Subrata watched with interest the lessons her father gave to his students in his Kaladi at home. At 10, she started to dance there. At just 15, she got her father's permission to publicly perform the Pakkanar-tullal as a first woman. Normally only men dance the Pakkanar-tullal, but Guru Kuti Ashan made an exception. That his daughter had an unusual talent, he had soon realized. Furthermore, he has no son, only daughters. At 18, she had her first experience with trance. She danced for a temple festival nearby. At that time I didn't understand anything about these things, she says, but the many experiences with my father slowly made me understand. Today I know I love this spirit so much and I believe in him. I get blessings from this God. The degree to which she loves this Pakkanar causes goose pimples. I had felt that exceptional something at the Samudra beach that time, otherwise I wouldn't be here. When I saw her dancing with the kolam in 1995, were I already anticipating an inner channel that I would speak with this dancer about all these things one day? How old would the Pakkanar song be? I imagine thousands of years ago. Subrata, almost astonished by this question, doesn't know and thinks, my father has already learned it in his childhood, and before it had existed too.
The word Pakkanar is made up of Pakkan and Are. Are means who in Malayalam language. That is, Pakkan Are. Who is Pakkan? At the same time, his name is the question, who is he?
This unfolds in a most simple way how difficult it is for the humans to name God. He is not conceivable. He is the great enigma, probably that will never change. Nevertheless, trying it again and again may be an archaic need of us humans. Even if it mostly doesn't seem like it, it is our permanent concern. Every culture searches for it in their own way. May all God's names lead back to that origin of not being able to call, to imagine, to the question, who is it, this invisible power? The Paraya solved the problem by formulating the question, Pakkanar, Pakkanar. Each time they pronounce his name, they ask in a wheel, who is he? Guru Kuti Ashan is a welcome guest in the village, welcomed as a teacher for dance, singing and entertainment. There is a lot of laughter. His lessons have nothing of strictness. Much more of it is fun and play, joy for everybody and especially for himself. His great passion is to report about the God's world. He is happy if ears listen to his words. As an illiterate, he teaches that it was practiced in olden times, when the cultural history was passed on orally to the next generation. He is not like I had imagined an old honored master would be. He is a master to be touched. His personality consists of various facets: a friend, an ally, a fool, a child with curious rascal's eyes, a boy full of thirst for action, a sad old man, a vulnerable human, a shaman who is no more needed. Through alternative singing and narration, he passes on the old stories and songs. Once he reports on the Vetava, the mountain forest people. A Vetava was collecting the roots of plants and honey, hunting and eating raw meat. This is the story of the Vetava which we performed. We appeared with many people on the stage, made wild costumes, and sang their life story. A Vetava doesn't exist anymore. Pakkanar is our main god of dance, says Kuti Ashan. And with the help of the story about the Pakkanar as an adult, he illustrates the origin and purpose of the trance dance, of the Tullal. Mahavishnu and Pakkanar grew up together when they were children, he begins to tell. Later, Vishnu arose to become the god of the gods. Pakkanar, however, was very wise and he knew everything about the universe.
Pakkanar was the 11th child of Vararuchi and Ati. Vararuchi, a Brahmin, lived once as the highest scholar at the king Vikramati's court. Ati, a casteless, grew up in a Brahmin's family. Homeless, Vararuchi and Ati moved around the country and had a total of 12 children. But they took with them none of their children. Each time a child was born, Vararuchi asked his wife, "Has it a mouth?" "Yes," answered Ati, "it has a mouth." And Vararuchi replied, "Then it will be fed." Consequently, they left the child behind where it was born and moved on. Each time, one of their children remained with a group of people. One was brought up poor and without any caste, the other one in a rich family. As Pakkanar was born at the Paraya's place, he grew up with these poor basket makers. But in his childhood, he played with Vishnu, who has been a child too at that time, and who was his best friend. However, later he would rise to become the highest of all gods.
There is no time to think while we are talking. Later there will be enough time. Happy about our sincere interest, Guru Kuti Ashan is jumping from one theme to another. He speaks about the healing power of trance, which the dancers once knew to use as shamans. Today they became nearly extinct, he says. Rarely does someone invite me to a home. In front of the house we perform the Pakkanar-tullal. After a while the sick family member comes into trance. Then I conjure up the bad spirits and pull them out. Precisely this is meant by the term piniotical, pulling out. The condition of the sick one is bada, obsessed by a bad spirit. Always new words, which I have to learn to understand. Kuti Ashan is a patient teacher who is the happiest with curious students. And I am the ideal student for him because I'm very curious. Without knowing beforehand, he explains, the dancer being in trance enters a completely different reality. He's able to look into other people. He can see who is carrying a bad demon inside, and then to take it out. The trance doesn't remain in the body afterwards, but if the singing starts again, he would return into the trance. The song is very important, the belief, the devotion, the respect, the blessing, and the fasting too before the performance. When somebody is possessed by a demon, and I sing the song, then this bad spirit in the person gets dizzy, because the demon feels disturbed by the song of the goddess and turns aggressive. Now the dancer can pull out the demon. What about him, Kuti Ashan? Can't the bada enter him while the pulling out? He laughs. He cannot come to any harm by the demons and bad spirits, he says. Due to the kulam on his head, he is under the protection of Pakkanar, through whom will come only good spirits. And besides, the powerful Bhadrakali is his goddess. All my life long, I was praying to her. I even traveled to the Chutanikara temple, asking for her blessings for me and my work. That way I got the blessings and the energy. Also, I can't either write or read. I know the songs of the goddess. As this has a spiritual meaning, all these I do for the goddess. That's how I got the strength. I am lucky because I'm singing songs of the goddesses. Without her, I am nothing. I receive all energy from her. Kuti Ashan wants to see what I have learned. In accordance with the custom, he blesses me. Then he introduces me to the Pakkanar-tullal. I've never expected such a thing. I thought I would dance with Subrata alone. It takes a great effort to understand my situation. A whole village is singing there with united passion. And I, a beginner from Germany, am dancing the dance of their god with the venerable old master in front of their eyes. The way Guru Kuti Ashan looks at me is touching. It is holy what we are doing right now. He seems to be much younger while dancing. I feel like in a train, completely being involved in the scene and yet only watching. Shortly afterwards, we have to dance Moodiyatam. I comprehend. Moodiyatam, swinging of the hair. This will be the first time for me.
Formerly, Moodiyatam was performed by 7 virgins in front of the temple. When a woman was hoping vainly for a child, she assigned the young dancers with asking the goddess for fertility by swinging their hair. For that reason, the dancers stand on the rim of a small pot or a mortar stone, which began to swing too because of the intense movements. That multiplies the difficulty of swinging the hair.
Atindo tindimdo tana tindadinindo tana tindo tindimdo tana tindadinindo Atindo tindimdo tana tindadinindo tana tindo tindimdo tana tindadinindo കിഴക്കൂനല്ലുതിമന കണ്ടു ഞാൻ പാടി വന്നിച്ചേ കിഴക്കൂനല്ലുതിമന കണ്ടു ഞാൻ പാടി വന്നിച്ചേ കിഴക്കിന്തോ തിന്തിന്തോ തന തിന്താതിനിന്തോ തന തിന്തോ തിന്തിന്തോ തന
In the beginning, I am surprised how easy it is. And it's fun to hurl my hair through the air so wildly. Soon, however, the ground under my legs is beginning to shake. The continuous up and down movements with the head and upper part of the body rob me of my balance. That is Attam. Besides to swing, it also means to shake. Moodiyatam pleases the goddess, who will then bless this childless woman, says Kutiashan. Even if she is possessed by a bad spirit, the Moodiyatam song can release her from that. When we perform Moodiyatam, the hair itself becomes veneration. Even the women who are watching begin to dance because of the powerful song. For Moodiyatam, there are many songs. Kutiashan talks about Naditchipatu, the planting the rice corn in the soil song. He tells, it was sung by the farmers because singing is relaxing. Actually, all this was the living art of the farmers once when they worked in the fields. How old are these things? Very old, Kutiashan answers. Older than me. Close to the village there is a big old carver still existing, a mini forest spared by the axes as a last remnant of the old snake's realm. It has the status of a shrine. You have to take off your shoes like in a temple. This place is holy. Through the unspectacular opening in the jungle, we enter this rare relic of primeval times. A path overgrown with the thick roots like enormous arms is leading down steeply. You have to take care not to stumble. The pleasant cool dusk deep in the bowels of the archaic vegetation has a calming effect. Huge forest trees and gigantic lianas form the walls of this natural temple. Down on the free space, covered with dry leaves, is the holy center. I avoid every unnecessary step. Countless finger-thick millipedes of a dark brown color curl up on the ground. This enchanted silence arouses respect. Also the sight of the two ancient stone figures, one of them a topless goddess, with snakes around her head and shoulders. Many times touched, black and greasy, they stand on big stone bases and defy the transitoriness. This is the divine snake couple, Nagayakshi and Nagaraja. Childlike astonishment is above any intelligent doubt. This is really the home of the snake deity. Here the mother cult stayed alive for thousands of years. The Kavu is a place of life and ancient stories. I've never seen a comparable Kavu. Perhaps there is none of that kind anymore. It is a part of the village life. Strangers will never come here. The last breath of an old world is perceptible here. I inhale it deeply. Here there is still enough space for any story. I realize being at a special place, which has become quite rare, one of the last living cells of diversity, having escaped the sharp knife of monoculture, far away from the radical modern age. Today they want to perform the Pakkanar-tullal in costumes and with all decorations, because today is our last day. Nobody has brought something for eating or drinking. Everyone is sitting there just watching. No one did plan anything else. No one needs more. It's only the belief, says Kutiashan. With quite some delay, this sentence touches my thoughts. It is only the belief.
Vishnu and Pakkanar grew up together in their childhood. Later, Vishnu rose to become the god of the gods. Pakkanar, wise and bright, knew everything about the cosmos. The time passed. Both had no more contact with each other. One day, his wife Pakatiya told him, "Vishnu was your best friend. Why don't you go and meet him?" Pakkanar hesitated, but then he went to the palace. He said to the guard, "I am Pakkanar from Palutati, and I want to show my face to the king." The guard went inside to report his visit. As deities have an inner eye, a sixth sense, Vishnu knew that Pakkanar was outside. At the same time, Pakkanar knew that Vishnu knew he was there. Vishnu, however, told the guard, "Tell him I'm not here." The guards came back and told Pakkanar. When Pakkanar heard the answer, he went 3 steps forward, stopped suddenly, turned back to the guards and replied, "Tell your Vishnu that he knows who is Pakkanar." At that very moment, Vishnu froze in his position. He was sitting at that time and was unable to move anymore. The whole family anxiously gathered, and all gods and goddesses assembled to see what had happened to Vishnu. Nobody could understand what this could mean. A Kanya, a truth teller, was called. He came and began with the shell oracle. Then he found the reason. Vishnu was cursed by Palutati's Pakkanar. After that, they called the 2 messengers Kodagiri and Nilagiri and sent them out to bring back Pakkanar immediately. But when they arrived in Palutati, his wife Pakatiya said she didn't know where Pakkanar had gone. He'd wanted to meditate. Pakkanar had told her earlier to say like that. However, he had gone to Paladi, where there was a big lotus. He stood in the middle of the lotus on 1 foot, on 1 toe, on 1 needle to meditate. He knew that only he or his clan could take back this curse, and no one else, and continued with his meditation. Searching for Pakkanar, Vishnu's messengers traveled throughout the whole world and crossed the 7 seas. Finally, they reached Paladi and found the big lotus and Pakkanar, who was meditating on 1 foot, on 1 toe, on 1 needle. They asked Pakkanar to hurry to Vishnu's palace and to release him from the bad spirit. But Pakkanar replied, "It is up to you to tell your Vishnu whether you have seen me or not." Pakkanar has won. So Pakkanar and Pakatiya went to the palace, performed the vanishing, and took out the bad spirit from Vishnu.
Few days later, we leave Kerala. We are going home with 6 hours of film material in our luggage. The several days' journey in the train to Bombay allows enough time for reflection. My experiences with the dancing god need to be digested. I can't understand much yet. Even more confusion when the 11th of September happens while sitting in the train. We read in the newspaper about it the next morning and look at the photograph. The 2 gigantic towers of the World Trade Center in New York shrouded in black smoke. I think the poorest country has attacked the richest. One of the oldest culture is at war with the youngest. Arrival at Bombay after 2 days in the train. It is the 13th of September. The Holocaust mood pervades only the TV and in me. Everything go on as usual on the streets. In me, because all the TV channels show the scene again and again, which I had dreamt 2.5 weeks before. This oblong-shaped, silver shining flying object, reflecting in the sunlight in the blue sky, is a passenger plane. On the videotape it is not clearly recognizable, just as in my dream. The reality has made a film of my dream and present it now to all the world. These occurrences, together with my predicting dream, drag me into a devouring process. An increasingly closer circling spiral urges me to examine even more insistently this seeming clash between the new and the old world, this sharp line that separates both from each other. The 2 village fairs in Kerala have unfolded before me. Now this conflict manifests itself around the entire globe. My story about the search for the dancing god seems automatically to add up into the big theme of world affairs in front of my eyes. Everywhere the gods withdraw. The old and the new are at war. The borderline is a destructive place. 2 universes without any link, I think. All alone I run back and forth between these worlds apart, searching for a connecting bridge and never belonging to somewhere. Suddenly a question arises in my thoughts. Do the gods withdraw? A voice answers.
The gods will withdraw.
What will happen to our world without them? And without the goddesses? What will happen to the humans who have forgotten to dance with the immortals? Has it been the wish of the gods? What is the opinion of the goddesses? The goddesses. A year passed. In summer 2002, we travel again to Kerala, visiting the Pakkanar dancers near Pandalam. What has changed? A second TV has moved into the village. The children had grown a bit. The government has cancelled the festivities for the Onam festival in the capital this year for shortage of funds and starts economizing like everywhere around the globe. where it is supposedly most insignificant. That means for Guru Kutiashan and his group, no appearances in Trivandrum, and as a result, a hole in the purse. Aren't the Pakkanar dancers needed even once more for entertainment? The kolam are ruined. They show them to us. I cannot believe in what pitiful condition they are, neither to use nor to repair. While looking at them, the idea appears in my mind that they haven't been used for long. Last summer, I saw them in good shape. Have they just left them outside in the rainy season? No one has made a new kolam until now. There is no money. They say it with sorrowful faces, not being conscious of having done any wrong. We will get new ones. Because today nobody likes to weave anymore. They buy plywood, big square boards, color for it, and all the accessories. Have they forgotten to weave? Kutiashan tells about the invoking of the ancestors, the Javuttullal. I hear about it for the first time. Javuttullal men became rare, he says. They are shamans. If in a family somebody dies unhappily or unfulfilled, after several years there comes a bad spirit over the family, then we call a Javuttullal man. An unhappy death means, for example, a suicide, or a father getting sick and dying too early and can't be at his daughter's wedding, or somebody can't fulfill his dream or vision. The frustrated soul of the deceased will then go around rambling and causes distress in the family, perhaps through a grandson who suffers from nightmares, anxiety, or disease. Then the Javu will come to perform a Javuttullal in front of the house of the person affected. On that occasion he calls upon the soul of the deceased to go into the son or the nephew or somebody else who is affected. During the Javuttullal, this person gets into trance, and through him the Javu can speak with the unhappy deceased. He is asking for the reason of the problem, putting many questions to him to find out what the family could do for his peace. In that way he tries to resolve the grief of the dead soul. Finally he finds a solution. Mostly the ancestor demands the family to undertake a pilgrimage to a certain temple or a church, or to celebrate this or that ritual, a morning prayer and so on. This will satisfy the dead soul. There is drumming along with the Javuttullal. A shell and a bell are needed. The Javu man is singing and dancing. The family invites all relatives. Before entering the house, the Javuttullal man puts a glass of arak in front of it. He ties a kacha around his waist, a cloth, similar to Shiva's. Javuttullal is a concept of Shiva. From him, the Javu receives his energy. The glass of arak is the medium, a sacrifice to the gods, by which he gets the blessing. By the blessing, he gets the power to evoke the spirit of the dead person into the living relative. To call over the soul of the dead person, he prays to the gods of the four directions of the earth, requesting from a church or temple in which the deceased once believed, to release the soul and to send it into the sick relative for treatment. Someone who performs Javuttullal has to study a lot, all the rhythms and songs.
We, the lower castes, have the Dharma Devangal. Dharma Devangal are good and friendly deities who look really fearsome like Kali. Our Dharma Devangal listen to us, what we tell and need. Who are they? The imagination of our ancestor spirits. That's why they listen to us. If somebody has died of smallpox, Pandara-chavu is called, whose spirit lives in the Kodangallur Bhagavati temple. If somebody has committed suicide or was murdered, Arukola is called, who is the spirit for every unnatural death case. If somebody was killed by an elephant, they call Ana Maruda.
Ana is elephant, Maruda is soul or spirit. What a charming concept, I think. They call the elephant soul. I imagine temples, mountains, holy places, where the souls live. The house with the possessed one, and such a soul which is wandering around unhappily because of not having found the right place. Then Kuti Ashan concludes, these were the stories of olden times. Now the situation has changed, the time, modernized. The modern life doesn't believe in such kind of things anymore. Today, people believe in political parties as Leninism, Marxism, and other political groups. I like to talk, but that's enough. And there is so much to say about calling upon gods and goddesses. Guru Kuti Ashan's unusual life story draws the path of a destined one. His childhood makes it clear how strong his inner voice must have been, how intact the mouthpiece of his soul was, because he heard it. At the age of 7, he ran away from home to study the traditional martial art from the old masters in the north of Kerala. He mentions an incident at school that provoked him to do so. A boy in my school started a fight with me. He was in the 4th standard, tall and strong. Everybody was calling him Pottu Pottu, idiot. I, small and slight, was in the 2nd standard. We played Kilitatu, and while playing we started to quarrel. He hit me, and I hit back. The teacher called us, and this boy told him to give 24 beats on my hand. That had made me very angry. I decided to study the old martial art and to become a master to take revenge on this boy. I wished to pay him back one day, which is why I went to Punani. At that time I knew already that many Abhyasi live up there in Malabar. No, it wasn't revenge alone. I wanted to learn all these things, also to overcome this inner fire against this boy. For that I gave up my school education and decided to leave. His family had no idea where he was, and after a while they assumed him to be dead. He had no contact with them for 16 years. For the entire period he studied martial art from the old masters in North Kerala and lived with them as a family member. Twice he was proposed the hand of a master's daughter, which became the reason for him to leave the place. One of these daughters even taught him the Mama technique. This technique features certain holes on acupuncture points, which make the opponent motionless. Now Kuti Ashan has reached his goal. As a young man he returned home and built his own kaladi. Soon he was teaching students from all over. When his grandfather realized that he has learned the martial art, he introduced him to the traditional arts of the family, Kolam-tullal and Pakkanar-tullal. With the Kolam-tullal we praise and celebrate in song the Kodungalur Patrakali. She is a very strong, powerful goddess, he tells. There are many kinds of decorations, dresses and characters. If somebody gets smallpox, we believe this performance can cure him. We went to a certain house and performed Kolam-tullal. That helped. Kuti Ashan has continued with the family tradition. I'm born with that, he says. I learned the dance, stories, and all the songs from my grandfather, who was a piniotical, a shaman. I sing Ramayana and Nalacharita too. If I drink a little bit, I can sing everything. But if I drink too much, I can't remember anymore, and also cannot sing. But a little bit is good for singing. Kuti Ashan became well known and respected as a master. Schools invited him as a jury for school festivals and also for teaching. He sang many times for the radio and danced for the TV. He performed for the public in Delhi, Haryana and Bangladesh. Invitations were waiting for him after each of his performances. In 1952, he traveled to Delhi for a dance contest, a long way from Kerala, around 3,000 kilometers. In company with him were 2 other masters and more than 20 dancers. There they appeared on stage in front of Nehru and Rajendra Prasad, a former president of India, and they won. Kuti Ashan was awarded with the A grade in art, the first prize. We received a big trophy, he remembers. Even 4 people couldn't carry it. Now it is put up at a government ministry in Trivandrum, and in addition I got a special award, a Kirto Mudra from Nehru. But somehow it got lost. It was in my house. It was something round.
ഇതൊക്കെ ആ പാട്ടുള്ള അത് പാടുമ്പോൾ പാടി കേട്ടോ കേട്ടോ ഇവിടെ ഇങ്ങനെ പാടുന്നവർക്ക് കേൾക്കാം എന്ന് ഇങ്ങനെ ഇന്നാ തുള്ളുന്നു അത് ചീനി കളയാനൊക്കെ ഇല്ല നമ്മളിപ്പം ചെവിടി വെച്ച് കളിക്കുന്നില്ലേ ആ കളിയൊന്നും അവിടെ കളിക്കാൻ സ്ഥലമില്ല എന്നിട്ട് ഇനിയും കളയുന്നത് ഞങ്ങളുടെ ഉള്ളിൽ നമ്മൾ കാശും വേണം.
After this success in Delhi, he was invited to perform and to teach wherever he wished. A Kirto Mudra was an important award. Today all that is past. He has sadness in his eyes, disappointment, resignation when he describes the present. Here I have more than 25 students. I taught them only a quarter of what I know, because they are not interested. Oh, not even a quarter of what I know. If somebody really would be interested and would ask me, I am ready. I will recount the complete story of Pakkanar. I will teach the legends and songs to a serious student who respects me as a guru. I would give a lot to him. Who knows me? You know me. You got to know me because of my art alone. After me, who will continue the kaladi, the dedication for art? You have come here because of my art. That's why my children should become more involved. Before I die, They must write down everything. Ours is an oral culture. I cannot write. I sing a song without any mistake. That is what I am able to do. If you like, you can all write down, I always tell people. But nobody listens. He looks at us hauntingly. You also have to tell them to write down everything. Then they can perform later. The reason why people here don't respect me is because I have no teeth, no notebook, no pride, because of my modesty. But in spite of all these things, I don't have. Good people like you recognize me. Now they all gather, because you have come from Germany. But when you are not here, they pay no attention to me at all. When Guru Kuti Ashan is no more one day, many stories too won't be here anymore. What will remain after his death? Who will continue? He doesn't know. I'm a bit sad who will continue with this art form. My children don't realize the meaning of this devotion to art. The big chunk of my knowledge will go with me to my grave. None of my students has the necessary conviction to care for the heritage of ancestors and to succeed me. When Kuti Ashan dies, everything will end with me. Tears in his face. That this old man cries make us speechless. The work is finished. Everything is ready for consecrating the new kolam and dance. The tender coconut palm leaves for the costumes are cut in shape and laid down when debates arise all of a sudden. At first, it looks to me like the usual way of communication which the hot-headed Keralites practice, until I get to know the true reason. The dancers refuse to dance without payment. Guru Kuti Ashan, at first speechless with horror, behaves as a master but is nevertheless helpless. Outraged with his students now, he stands apart. Later he gave them a piece of his mind. Here we dance for Pakkanar alone. The young man, however, cannot be persuaded. After a long discussion, Manoj puts an end to the conflict. He and an old man will dance, only for Pakkanar. Possibly for the last time. Maybe that's why something special is going to happen. While Manoj gets into trance quite quickly, only for the third time in his life, a man in the audience also falls into trance abruptly. Did it take place at shamanistic healing ceremonies once like that? Later, I get to know that this was the first trance of his life. Totally surprised about this incident, he says that his deceased grandparents would have come to his mind at once. He doesn't know what happened then. He smiles, looks happy, and is amazed because he can't remember. In a distant big city, he is a government officer. Before we say goodbye and part until next year, I want to ask Kuti Ashan my most urgent question, kept secret for a long time because of that silly fear. The old master might laugh at me. Kuti Ashan, do the gods withdraw? He looks at me with his blazing eyes. Seriously, of course. He never would laugh at me for that question. On the contrary, he is grateful for that kind of reflections. He blinks at me and has a captivatingly simple answer for me. Imagine you drop into my home and you pay me these visits several times again, but each time I treat you badly. I don't offer you anything to eat or to drink. I don't pay any attention on you. After that, you surely won't visit me anymore. Another year passed by. Again I visit India, which goes on relentlessly to suiting the speed of modern time. This time Pakkanar-tullal won't be performed. Like a silent premonition hurled back from future, I follow my wish to be alone with Kuti Ashan and to visit the old carver together with him alone, without the company of the villagers. The imminent events had laid an invisible sign, which I instinctively followed. It would be the last time that we were together with Guru Kuti Ashan and talked to him. I like to hear the story of the snake. He doesn't say no. Ignoring the finger-thick millipedes, which keep moving on the ground constantly, I sit down before him, the student, adoring the old master, who is telling an old story in the snake's realm. Thus I imagine the conversation with an old master, exactly that way, at this specific place. Everything fits, the light, the atmosphere, loaded with archaic security and timelessness. The temperature, which the body doesn't feel, because it is neither hot nor cold. I'm very happy, not realizing the sun's cruise over the high treetops. We spent the whole afternoon in this forest temple, an indefinite energy trying to keep us there as long as possible. Beside us, the topless snake goddess Nagayakshi and the snake god Nagaraja, the finger-thick millipedes on the ground full of dead leaves, and above us the high skyline of green leaves with the flying dogs, in the thicket the crickets. A long time we sit there, and I can ask many things.
പാമ്പ്
6 months later, one morning in the early spring of 2004, a letter arrives from India, an aerogram from Sushila. She informs us about the loss of her father Kuti Ashan after he had a bus accident. He died in a hospital at 4:30 p.m. on the 22nd of January